вся наша техніка не може подолати природи. As you all know, our keynote speaker today was going to be Dr. Volodymyr Zaretsky, the Executive Director of the Center for U.S.-Ukraine Relations. I'm sure many of you were excited to hear him speak. I know that I definitely was. However, Hurricane Katrina had other plans, and he sends his regrets. He wanted to thank the Edmonton Hramada for having invited him to give the keynote address at this celebration. He's honored by the request and extends his apologies for not being here in person. However, in preparations for this speech, we discussed what sort of approach he could take and what we, as a Hramada, could learn from the 1991 Declaration of Independence. I will do my best to summarize our thoughts on the subject. As I've noted, a Ukrainian state was proclaimed no less than 5 or 6 times in the 20th century. Each time, however, the forces arrayed in opposition to an independent and sovereign Ukraine proved to be formidable, including 2 of the most fearsome empires in history, the Third Reich and Soviet Russia. Концепція української держави не зродилась щойно в 91 році. Навпаки, шлях до здобуття сьогоднішньої української держави має довгу і болючу історію. Щоб зрозуміти цей процес, треба зрозуміти концепцію відновлення. In order to understand the events of 1991 in proper context, it's critical for us to understand the concept of national continuity, and in particular, the renewal of the nation-state. The Declaration of Independence in 1991 did not happen in a vacuum. Rather, it was the natural outcome of a number of different processes that began years and sometimes decades before. The groundwork for creating an independent and sovereign Ukrainian nation had its roots in the political philosophy of the mid-19th century and is echoed in the works of Taras Shevchenko. The declaration in 1991 was itself a declaration of renewal, rather than simply the creation of a brand new entity. We do, in fact, have an 1,100-year history as a nation and state, broken up by intermittent, long periods of oppression and conquest by various overzealous neighbors. In 1941, the Ukrainian state proclaimed by the Organization of Ukrainian Nationalists in Lviv was a proclamation of renewal of the Ukrainian state of 1918, the Ukrainian National Republic. Many of the same people who were involved in 1918 continued the struggle in exile to reestablish a national Ukrainian state, culminating in the 1941 Declaration. In the same vein, the Ukrainian National Republic was itself a renewal, founded on the principles of the Mazepa state, Mazepinska Держава, that Ivan Mazepa built around the turn of the 18th century. Under his leadership, Ukraine was a key player in European continental politics, for example, when it joined Sweden in its battle against Tsarist Muscovy. And so, the Mazepa state itself was a renewal of the Cossack hetmanate of the 17th century, which reached its apogee under Bogdan Khmelnytsky. Why is this important? One might concede that this paradigm of renewal is accurate without seeing its particular relevance today to contemporary events in Ukraine, or, for that matter, to Ukraine's future. However, consider the following. As anyone who has attended Ukrainian Saturday school knows, Ukraine has an incredibly rich and varied history and cultural heritage. Today's event is a joyous one, as achieving and maintaining independence for 20 years is no mean feat. However, our joy is tempered by a touch of sadness as well, as we recognize that many of the things we so fervently hoped for in 1991 have not been fully recognized. From its peaceful and miraculously non-violent birth in the summer of that year, our diaspora has stood witness to the hardship and turmoil during a very difficult period of transition after the Ukrainian nation finally cast off its 70-year-old shackles of Soviet oppression and tyranny. We watched, as a proud parent might watch a toddler, Ukraine's first tentative steps towards development of a modern, civil, and just society. We cheered as she stood on her own and developed her own identity in the world, and stood firm with her against a rising tide of foreign pressure that threatened to steer her off course. In 2005, with the outpouring of democratic fervor during the Orange Revolution, we thought that finally Ukraine had come into her own and would be able to stand as a full and proud member of the democratic nations of the world. Perhaps then, we in the diaspora became overconfident and failed to recognize the vulnerabilities and potential challenges faced by independent Ukraine. The current pseudo-democratic regime of Ukraine is socially divisive and is fracturing civil society itself. Externally, our eternal adversary to the north is beckoning to the creation of another union of fraternal nations. Today, it is an economic and customs trade union. Last year, it was the lease of sovereign Ukrainian lands and the amalgamation of state-owned companies. What tomorrow may bring, only God knows, but the intent is clear. Сьогоднішній уряд України показує нам кожного дня, що інтереси української держави та інтереси українського суспільства не є їхнім дороговказом. Увесь час виглядає, що уряд існує на користь інтересів малої горстки олігархів, які без вагання готові переочити відновлені імперіалістичні наміри Москви, так довго, як Кремль не чекатиме їхні фінансові гри. Це проголошення 91-го року би не сталося без величезного труду поколінь. Історія України – це історія народу, який від ранніх днів свого існування мусив захищати свої землі від різних наїздників. І хіба це не диво? Стратегічне та географічне положення українських земель та кількість і якість природних багатств приваблювали не одного захланного ворога. It is indeed these twin concepts of renewal and national continuity then that laid the groundwork and foundation needed for the Ukrainian people to proclaim their independence in 1991. This uncanny ability of the Ukrainian nation to rebuild itself is reflected and celebrated in our national anthem, Ще не вмерла Україна. Ukraine has not yet perished. Having to constantly rebuild and do renewal, obviously, is by no means a fun endeavor. However, there is reason to hope. Ukraine of 2011 is much like Lithuania of 1938. There, 20 years of independence had created a new cultural paradigm where nearly an entire generation had grown up without experiencing foreign rule. An entire generation that would find the rule of foreigners, well, foreign. Whether it was the Russians in 1939 and 1944, or the Germans in 1941, young Lithuanians of all ideological and political stripes found the idea of living in a conquered land absolutely abhorrent. At the first opportunity to do so, as in 1989, they headed for the proverbial door. They decided that standing alone was not an option, and immediately linked their fate with the West, i.e. the NATO and EU alliances. It is for this reason that I suspect that regardless of the temporary setbacks Ukraine is experiencing today, Nash Rідний Край would do as the Lithuanians did. At the first chance they get, they will renew the quest for freedom and finally embrace their Euro-Atlantic future. Через 20 століття наша діаспорна громада стояла в авангарді української ідеї. Коли били та катували нашу батьківщину і нищили наші церкви, наші попередники протистояли смерті. Смерті культури, смерті мови, смерті нації. Сьогодні настав час нам молодим продовжувати цю справу, налаштувавши належним чином наші мети і надії. Україна майбутнє існує у демократичній, соборній і самостійній державі, де зберігаються людські права та процвітає українська освіта і культура, де кожен громадянин може будувати своє власне майбутнє без перешкоди від нечесної влади та де існує щира пошана до людини, суспільства та нашої історії.